Welcome to the Here's My Story channel. I'm Maria. In a sad voice, Dad said, "Honey, do you remember how hard you cried when you lost your grandmother, right? Think about that day. You were so sad because you weren't going to see her again. Are you getting emotional already? Don't hold yourself back. You'll feel better if you cry." He looked at my eyes carefully to see if I was crying or not. When he realized I wasn't, he was disappointed. "Maria, come on. Can't you cry just a little, please?" he begged. My dad knew I couldn't simply force myself to cry, but he was trying anyway. A friend of his was selling his luxury yacht. My dad thought it was a steal. He wanted to buy that yacht right on the spot, but he didn't have the money for it. So he was coming up with different tricks trying to make me cry. But why did my father want me to cry so much? Because I cried diamonds. Every time I cry, diamonds worth thousands of dollars fall out of my eyes. My mom couldn't stay silent. "Honey, we already have 2 yachts. Why do you want a 3rd one?" she asked him. That question upset him because it's such a bargain. If our dear daughter could cry a little, we could easily get it. But for some reason, she's being difficult, he replied. I was not trying to be difficult. I'm just not someone who easily cries. I wish I could cry diamonds when I'm chopping onions. Then Dad would have as many diamonds as he'd like. Unfortunately, I need to cry naturally if I'm to get those diamonds falling out of my eyes. My parents realized I cried diamonds when I was a baby. They were curious about why, but couldn't ask anyone because they couldn't risk having people find out about it. They were too worried that I'd be kidnapped if it were known that I cried diamonds. That's why they made a plan to protect me. Obviously, I used to cry a lot when I was a baby. They saved every piece of diamond that came out of my eyes. At the end of 2 years, they sold all of them off to buy an island. Yes, that was their plan. To live a quiet life on an island in the middle of the ocean away from prying eyes. When I was little, my mom was my only friend, which was enough for me. But as I got older, not having friends around began weighing down on me. I was making up imaginary friends for myself, but it was, of course, awkward for a teenager to not have friends. One day I shared this with my parents. I told them, "I don't want to live in isolation anymore. Please, let's move to the city. Let me go to a normal school and have friends my age." My dad got angry. "Maria, are you out of your mind? That would be too risky. Please, don't even mention this again," he yelled. I was really sad when I heard that. I began to sob. My dad shrieked with joy when he saw me crying. He grabbed a bag and began collecting all the tiny pieces of diamond that were dropping out of my eyes. I couldn't stop myself even though I was annoyed by what he was doing. I cried for some time. In the following days, my dad came to my room frequently. "We're going to live on this island until the end of our lives," he said, bursting out in laughter. I began sobbing, and he got himself a small fortune every time. My mom finally realized he was doing this to make me cry. One night, they got in a huge fight. "Do you realize that you are making our own daughter cry? I can't let that happen. Maria and I are moving to New York. I'll do my best to give her the life she's dreaming of," she said. Of course, my dad opposed it, but Mom had made up her mind. After a long fight, he had to accept it. "Okay, but I'll come with you. We have to protect Maria. You know what might happen if they find out she cries diamonds," he said. That night marked a turning point in my life. We moved to New York shortly after. Dad rented an apartment for us. My school was close to our place, but he was still worried. That's why he did something I didn't like. He hired a security company. I had to go to school with 2 bodyguards. "Dad, this is so embarrassing. They should at least leave me at the door. I don't want them to come into the school," I objected. But my dad had no intention of listening to me. "I talked to the principal. The bodyguards will be with you wherever you go, including in classes. End of discussion. Or we go back to the island," he said. I felt awkward walking into the school between 2 bodyguards in the morning. Everyone was staring at me. Naturally, no one came to talk to me. I've been dying to make friends, but I wouldn't blame anyone for not wanting to get closer to the girl with 2 heavy-set bodyguards. The next few days were virtually the same. Kids started whispering to each other whenever they saw me. I didn't think they were saying nice things about me, but I was still happy with my life. Sooner or later, I would make some friends and they would find out what I was really like. One night, my dad said, "Maria, you haven't cried in a long time. This place costs a small fortune. If you can cry a little, we can buy ourselves a nice townhouse and stop paying rent. What do you say?" I replied, "Dad, I'd love to do that, but I feel great here." In this state, the most I can do is cry tears of joy, but as you know, those don't make diamonds. He got upset with me. I want this for our family. You better cry at the first chance, he said. My mom was on my side. She said, honey, we have enough money. Why do you need to buy a townhouse? Let Maria enjoy her new life. Dad didn't say anything, but you only had to look at his face to see he didn't like this one bit. The only place the bodyguards left me alone was the bathroom. One morning, I was doing my makeup in front of the bathroom mirror when a girl finally talked to me. I'm glad those bodyguards won't come in here, she said. Happiness radiated from my eyes. I don't want them to come into the school either, but my dad won't let me get my way, I said with a smile. They say your father is a famous mobster. Is that true? Asked the girl. A mobster? Of course not, I said. Another rumor says you're the daughter of the president. Is that true? She asked. My name's Maria. I'm not the daughter of a president or a mob leader. If you're friends with me, maybe in the future I can tell you why I have bodyguards, I said, extending my hand. She did the same. My name's Cora. I wish you were the first daughter. Then it would be so cool to be friends with you, she giggled. That's how I met Cora. She quickly became my best friend. We were texting all night. Thanks to her, stupid rumors about me died down, and I started having more friends. Except for the bodyguards, this was the life I had been dreaming of. My mom was happy for me, but I couldn't say the same for my dad. He kept saying, Maria, you need to cry as soon as possible. I want to buy a new house for our family. But crying was the last thing on my mind when I felt this good. Cora lived very close to our place. We walked to school together. The sight of two teenage girls joking and laughing accompanied by two sulking bodyguards was a bit weird. But we didn't care at all. Cora and I were having so much fun. One morning, as our weird crew was walking to the school, something horrible happened. A black SUV stopped right next to us. Two men who jumped out of it grabbed and forced me into the vehicle. Thankfully, my bodyguards interfered. There was an altercation between them. The bad men got into their SUV and drove off. Both Cora and I were terrified. The bodyguards called my dad. My parents came and picked me up immediately. I went back home with them. My dad said, it looks like someone knows you're crying diamonds. We got lucky this time, but they won't stop following you. We need to return to the island immediately. That's the only place where you'll be safe. My mom was still in shock. You're right, let's go back to the island. It's too dangerous for Maria to be here, she said, agreeing with my dad. I didn't want to go back there. I started crying. Maria, we need to do this. Please try to understand, my dad said and proceeded to collect the diamonds. He looked pretty happy. If we returned to the island, I'd cry all the time just like he wanted. I called Cora to say goodbye. Are you going to say goodbye to your best friend over the phone? I'm coming right over, she said. I didn't say anything to my parents because I knew they would say no. When the doorbell rang, they were worried because they didn't know who was at the door. While they were standing in front of the door and trying to decide what to do, I went and opened it. Cora came to say goodbye, I said. She was so excited. After introducing herself to my parents by saying, Hi, I'm your daughter's best friend, she turned to my dad. Nothing about you looks like a mobster or a president. I don't know who you are or why Maria needs to come to the school with bodyguards, but I witnessed something weird on my way here. I think I'd better share this with you, she said. I looked at her surprised. Cora began telling her story. I saw a van with a sign that said night security in front of your building. I believe that's the name of the security company that Maria's bodyguards work for. The bodyguards left your building and got in the van that had been waiting for them out front. That's not weird, you're right. Night security is the firm that the bodyguards work for. When their shift is up, the van drops them off where they live, he said. That's what I thought, but the weird part was seeing the two men who tried to kidnap Maria earlier today right there in the passenger seat. Maria's bodyguard said hello to them and then started joking around. It was obvious that they knew each other. They probably even work for the same company, Cora explained. Like me, my mom had figured it out too. She gave my dad a dead stare. Honey, what's going on? Someone tried to kidnap Maria. You were the one that said Maria wasn't safe here anymore. We had to go back to the island. You convinced us to do that. Congratulations. Cool story. We almost listened to you and went back to the island. Thanks to Cora, we now know the truth. Dad was caught. He couldn't deny it. He said, I'm doing this for Maria, but we had stopped listening to him. Thanks to Cora, we are still in New York. My dad sold the island. That's how we got this beautiful townhouse and all this money that will last us a lifetime. The best part is that my dad doesn't insist that I cry anymore. He tells me he regrets what he's done, but neither my mom nor I can trust him yet. Cora still doesn't know that I cry diamonds. I'll tell her soon, though, because I trust her. I'm sure she'll keep my secret as well as I do. I plan to cry some diamonds so she can go to a good college because I think she deserves it.